right, we're here at the Colorado Farm Brewery outside of Alamosa, Colorado, and we're here with Josh Cody, brewer, owner, and most importantly, member of the Cody family who runs the farm here. Josh, thank you so much. Thanks a million for having us here. I'm so excited to be performing here, and we're really excited to learn about your space and your beer here.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you guys. Like, our brewery is so unique because we're located, number one, in southern Colorado. So far south, most people don't even know we're in Colorado. But it is our fourth generation family farm where my great-grandfather actually homesteaded. And together with my brother and my dad, we now own it and operate it. We grow barley and wheat and rye, mostly for other breweries and distilleries all over the world, but especially here in Colorado where most of our customers are. But of course, we now have our Colorado Farm Brewery here where we brew the beer with ingredients that we grow on the farm.
Well, I got to tell you, before we even get into the beer, when I was asking for venues around Alamosa where I could play, overwhelmingly, people pointed to the Colorado Farm Brewery and said, you have to go there, it's a special place, it's magical, perform there. And I was wondering, what do you think you're doing to foster such support from your community and such loyalty? And from Alamosa, they seem very proud that you're here.
Yeah, that is a nice thing to hear. I mean, you always want to hear that about your business, right? But I think it's a paradigm, man. Like, in reality, it's about it's a worldview. How do you see the world and what's important to you? And it seems like all of a sudden people are interested in where the ingredients that they're putting into their body come from and how those ingredients are harvested, how they're used, how they're stewarded. And there's something quite amazing about, especially in America, our story is so short. And it's like for us to have four generations in the Western United States, on one piece of property, that we can cultivate all of that and bring it into a glass where you taste the local flavor. It's a rare thing. And I think that people really see that there's a whole worldview that goes in behind it. A worldview of stewardship, of the land, of the people, of the place, and every piece of our life. And so because of that, they come out here, and you said magical. I call it a little windshield time.
Sure,
There's just enough windshield time that when you drive out here, you're like, oh, I'm in the right state of mind, I need a beer. And so
awesome.
There it is, man.
It's
and that's
amazing.
who we are.
And you talk about your worldview. I know you're born and raised in Alamosa.
Correct.
But you traveled the world a bit and learned things, and you came back. What brought you back to Alamosa? What was the draw?
Oh man, that's a big question. I'll answer it. Yes, I was born and raised here. Graduated from Adams State College, then college, now Adams State University. But I moved away and I lived in Milwaukee. I was a teacher, and then when I got the opportunity to go abroad, I went to see the family farm. So my mom's family still has a farm in Germany. And I went and I met the family there, spent some time with them, and got to see kind of the roots of where that side of my family comes from. And it was a huge impact on me. And one of the biggest pieces to it was their barley farm was there. And we're barley farmers here. And I saw the connection and how close that connection was from the beer to the consumer. There's a small brauerei in the city of Detmold where the family comes from, and the people literally get beer delivered to their doorstep in a plastic crate. And when they're done drinking it, they put the bottles back and they come and get the bottles and recycle them. And it was kind of like the milkman. And I thought, what an amazing reality it is that there can be that full circle connection to the farm and bringing people back to the agricultural roots of really every industry, but in particular the beer industry. And so from that day on, I kind of saw it as an opportunity to bring that here, bring it to the home that I grew up in, and let people around me get to know that that can happen, that it can actually be grown here, brewed here, consumed here, and that people see that full circle in the agricultural industry. And so that was hugely influential for me. And it was a good opportunity for me to see the world outside of southern Colorado. It was a big thing. And so it did change the way I see the world.
And so you obviously brought things back from your travels, techniques and knowledge and lessons learned. So all of this comes from the world here, but then the ingredients are very, very local.
Yes.
Which is bringing knowledge in from the outside, but very, very regional, specifically regional and specific to this farm ingredients. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I think we're the only people in the world that actually do this, although I can't substantiate that claim. I've been to farm breweries all over Europe, and everybody's got specialty malt or something special from somewhere else because they kind of have to. But when I started looking at our climate, latitude on the globe to grow the hops, of course the grain that grows here very well and has for 4 generations, clear back to the 40s when the Coors Brewing Company started using the area for growing barley. And then my brother Jason, I have to give him credit because he was the first one to try to capture a wild yeast strain here, and successfully did it. A wild Saccharomyces cerevisiae and ale yeast. And from that day on, I was like, we probably better start a brewery because we can grow everything here. And so the water, the well water, is really good for brewing. And because of that, we kind of had all 4 ingredients to that Reinheitsgebot, the German purity brewing laws. And I thought we probably better try it. So for years before we finally got open, we experimented homebrewed to see if we could make it work. We worked with the yeast laboratory. So we would send our wild yeast slurry to them, and they would try to find the good yeast, send it back, and then we would use it in the brewing process. And so that's still how we do it. To make sure we keep a really clean strain. But it's our own yeast strain that we capture here, and we own it. We're the only ones that brew with it. And so because of that, all 4 of the ingredients in the beer come from the property.
That's
and I'm
amazing.
literally right here. And so
It's just, that's really, really special.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
Thanks.
So this is obviously your beer barn. I'm looking forward. I assume I'm going to be performing somewhere here.
Yeah.
Could we see some of your brew equipment?
Yeah,
Talk
let's
a
do
bit more
it.
about
And
your
I'll show you the
process.
brew house. I'll show you exactly how we do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. All right, we're here in the brewery. So this is where the beer meets halfway on its journey from the farm to the tap. It comes through this room.
Nice.
And and you guys don't only brew though, you guys also have a malting business that's pretty important, if I'm to understand. And it's all over the world.
Yeah, so we have Colorado Malting Company located here on our family farm, and it's older than the brewery. We incorporated the brewery in 2017. The malting company was officially incorporated in 2008, but the seed was born in 2006. And what happened was, like most family farms in America, we were going out of business. And I had taken a job. I was teaching in Wisconsin. My older brother was in grad school in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that was the end of the Cody family farm. And my grandmother, who was still alive at that time, and my dad sat down at the table to sell it to a local farmer who had grown big and was buying up lots of ground at that time. And I got to give my grandmother credit for us still being here, because she was 83, I think, and she told my dad, they were literally sitting at the table with the pens, and she's like, I can't do it, I can't sell. And my dad's like, we don't have a choice. Yeah. And she was like, well, I have enough money saved to operate for 1 more year, and can we make it work? And my dad was like, I don't know. So he called my brother, he called me. We talked about the idea of malting the barley that we grow and selling it to microbreweries or distilleries in Colorado to see if maybe we could survive. It was literally a survival story. And so one summer when I was done with school and my brother was off, we came home and we built an old dairy tank into a malting vessel. Now, we didn't even know what that was at the time. It was self-education, trying to figure out how to do it. And it wasn't, because when I was a boy, this was a dairy farm. And so we sold the cows in 1994, and there was stainless steel tanks just sitting in this building. And so we retrofitted it into a tank, trying to figure it out. We gave the first malt away to the local brewery, to San Luis Valley Brewing Company, for free. We were like, hey, will this work? And he called a few days later, said, yeah, we're great, can I get some more? And that was really the seed that actually built this whole business, because it was the thing that saved our family farm. I mean, craft beer literally saved our family farm in that way.
And now your craft malt is all over the world. It's not just here. Right?
Yes, correct. Even though we're still a small malting facility by scale, we do lots of very unique grains that nobody else will malt. And it's due to the fact that, one, we didn't learn it through the traditional methods, and so we're not afraid to experiment and fail once in a while. But we malt all sorts of different things: malted millet, buckwheat, quinoa, sunflower seeds, of course, every type of barley, wheat, and rye you can imagine. Universities all over the country use us as a pilot malting facility for small scale, because most maltings is very large scale. And so consequently, we found an amazing, some people call it a niche in the market, but I refuse to use that word. Instead, I use the word renaissance.
Okay.
Because the truth is that that's how it always used to work. People grew stuff locally, they malted it locally, they brewed it locally, and they drank it locally. And that worked for thousands of years. And actually, the new industrial model, which is very small on the timeline of humanity, is actually the new thing, not really what we do. And so, long story short, we are a very small-scale malting company that does unique products, and we do work all over the world. every continent on the globe except Antarctica.
So-
we sent malt to.
So I've got to ask you, do you secretly have a bucket list to sell
Yes,
one can of
it's
malt
coming.
to some home brewer on Antarctica?
Yes, one day that will happen.
That would be awesome. So yeah, obviously brewing. You've got a tap room here. You have a malting business. You run a working farm. But there's one other thing that seems very, very important here that I see is you seem to be growing a community here as well, and this model really fits that. Where I look and I see families gathering here and kids playing, and I'm happy to be a part of that. But tell us a little bit about that, about your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I think our sense of community here in our area is very strong. We all grew up together, and it's kind of one of those farm communities. As a matter of fact, one of the families, close families, the Tolsma family, Keith and Suzanne, own the business with us as far as the brewery is concerned. They actually own a portion of the brewery with us. So it's not just one family. It represents more than that. It's more of a community. And the entire business model is meant to cultivate that family growth. And it's not a place where it's just a traditional, bar. It's really not a bar at all. As a matter of fact, it's more of a rebirth of the European beer garden or public house where people come and talk. They talk to their neighbor. The kids run and play. And it encourages a world of safety and sobriety and kindness to your neighbor. And in that way, it's fulfilling a real purpose in our community. And it was the unforeseen blessing that we received by opening this brewery.
That is absolutely amazing. So you go around off into the world, bring all of these techniques and knowledge and tradition from outside of the world, but you're implementing it hyper locally here with your own ingredients on the farm to tap. It's just an amazing thing. So I have to ask you, if I was pouring your beer for a friend of mine and I was explaining this to them, that you're going to taste this worldwide tradition but implement it on a single farm, what would I tell them to look for in the beer?
Yeah, I would definitely say look for the terroir. Look for the annual vintage, because every year the crop's a little different. The hops are a little different. The barley's a little different. And so because of that, it's cultivating an actual terroir of that location. You're tasting that place. The soil in the ground, you're literally tasting the soil when you drink the beer. And it's that little subtle difference, because that grain had to grow here in a very unique climate on Earth, in a very unique soil, in a prehistoric lake bed that is the San Luis Valley. That grain had to fight its way through a very unique climate to make itself able to be malted and then brewed into beer. And so every time you taste that beer, you're tasting here. You're tasting home.
That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Well, Josh, I can't wait to taste some of your beers.
Yeah.
I can't wait to perform music here in this beautiful, beautiful space that you've created with these wonderful people here in the San Luis Valley. And
Thanks,
so,
man.
thank you
It's
so
a
much.
pleasure to have you. Yeah,
Likewise. So,
absolutely, man.
we'll set up and we'll get some music going for you.
Cool.
So, thank you for
Cheers.
taking the time.
Yeah,
Cheers.
of course.